Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio, which with what is apparently the 200th episode of Indiepocalypse Radio. I've been doing this show a lot, as it turns out. Time is inevitable march. You just keep doing something, and the numbers keep getting bigger every time you do them. What is the thing that I do? The thing is, of course, Indiepocalypse. Indiepocalypse, of course, being the monthly anthology of alternative, underground, independent video games, and Indiepocalypse Radio being your kind of companion piece to that. I'm trying to figure out a weird dead zone on my monitor that I'm like, why is this? Anyhow, we are here with a packed house of guests today, including a semi-packed first segment in that it has two people in it. From issues far away from each other, issues 70 and 56. From 56 with Let the Lights Bleed, we have Narel, and from issue 70 with Voicemail Laura, it's Silver Hatsuyuki. Hello, how are you both doing today?
Hi. Hello, it's nice to be here.
Yes, great to have you.
It's really nice to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Can I have you? I realize I always forget to do this when there are two guests. Can I have you both introduce yourselves? Be like, "Hey, hello, this is me," so people can put a voice to a name to the voice.
You go ahead, Nero, please.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. First. Okay, so I'm Narel. I'm just a guy from rural Poland. I mostly do interactive fiction, sometimes visual novels. I think I'm more of a writer than like a game developer, but like that's fine. Nobody cares.
Right. What does that even mean?
Yeah. What does that even mean? And since we are here together, I was a writer for Tourist in the Waking World, which came out all the way in 2022. And Silver over there was amazing enough to make sprites for it. That's how we know each other.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to work on it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, my turn then? Okay. Hi, I'm Silver. I've been making visual novels since, since the mid-2010s. And since 2020, I've started kind of dabbling into like interactive fiction. And I also do digital art. Most of that.
Perfect. Yes, no, that is. And, there is a lot to, like, what is game developer, such an abstract concept, what is a game? Really, game is just the things that you click on, if you click on things or you have to interact with it. Well, we're in game territory,
Yeah, exactly. The entire premise of interactive fiction.
Right. And speaking of interactive fiction, one work in a trilogy of works was included in Indiepocalypse 56. If people are unfamiliar, how would you describe Let the Lights Bleed?
Oh God, it's a pretty heavy experience.
Yes.
So it's really hard for me to like start to describe it.
Right,
but it's essentially
in like. Maybe that is sometimes like defined as the description,
Yes, it's essentially just like 500 words of dissociating, and just it was hard to write and it's hard to experience.
Yeah, and that's part of kind of like what I want to also highlight with this project of games have an immaturity problem, in that they're seen as very immature, and the kind of like commercial releases are usually kind of like, fall often into the realm of a man has to make a very tough decision or whatever while you play a video game to get there. Which does a disservice to basically a wide swath of games, interactive fiction that, have been mature for a very long time.
Yeah, I think I know what that means.
Yeah, it's a complicated, often because maturity is equated to like, what's it called? Like people doing, very, very surface level mature content, of, are there like naked people in this thing? Do you shoot people with guns?
Yes, exactly. I did actually have someone come and like review bomb the entire Lights trilogy, entire like 3 games, just because like they expected porn. It wasn't porn.
Does this have an adult tag on it, or like NSF, whatever that?
It has an adult. It has an adult tag on it because like it is adult content.
Yes.
But it's not the adult content that they expect. So
No.
it's wrong.
Yeah, no, that is. I've clicked on a, because I've seen it before on like a game. I don't think it was your game. A game like yours, and that adult tag is as culture creators like to say, a land of contrast.
Yes, it has like a very wide variety of subjects.
There's like, if you just there's a mountain of what I guess what you think of when you think of traditional like adult content, and then you'll see like little these snippets of like a game like Let's Lights Bleed just like pop up every now and then among just like, hey, you want to fuck these digital ladies?
Yes, exactly.
Which is just another problem of genre, or the clumsiness of words in video games,
Yeah, like one genre doesn't have to be the same thing all the time.
Right, and we don't have like a good a word for like, I guess you could call it, we could try to use our rating system of like mature, but that's only like imperfect, and Itch.io doesn't have that even.
I cannot get into what I think about itch.io's handling of the adult games because we don't have time for that, and there are other people to talk.
Yes, I mean, they're dealing with, I think, part of the legacy of video games being immature, because that is like, I think like my shortest version of that, the entire long-standing situation is like, you got to get to the root of the problem, which is that games are seen as an immature medium, and there are like 8 million films or whatever they can go buy at a store that are far more mature than most of the video games that fell under these umbrellas.
Yeah, I guess it's still kind of like equates to like games are just for children, not for adults. It's kind of situation.
Right, so you get that we need to protect the children kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because games are things that kids play all the time. And it's like, well, we know a kid isn't going to, watch Salo, But that's why I can go to the store and buy it. Even though far worse than, like, most games that are quote unquote bannable whatever games that are getting ripped from marketplaces and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now, point question, Silver. Hey, hello. Your game as well. If people are unfamiliar with it, how would you describe Voicemail Laura?
I guess it's a woman reflects back on her relationship, but it's through a voicemail. Just, you could also call it just a monologue. It's basically like a woman monologuing about the relationship.
Yeah.
which is essentially her stalking her ex, and then there's like a twist in the end. Yeah.
And that, and also, you know, once again, like the things that also only work as like in that particular frame as like a game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even though both, you know, works of interactive fiction that people go that you could say, oh well, it's just text, you know, could you not make those just a book? But that doesn't work as like a book, you know.
No, I guess for me, interactive fiction is like a mix between a short story, but if you want, it can also have like a very kind of musical experience where you're just like you're reading something and then the music starts playing and it's kind of like adds into like the emotion of the story, and it creates this whole like experience that hopefully by the end kind of like leaves an impact on you.
Right.
That is not to say, but I also kind of personally I also play also interactive fiction. They're just like that space because I just have a love for the medium of storytelling, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Though apparently, from what I hear recently, games are worse at telling stories than books and movies.
Yeah.
So don't know why they try. Which is, I think that is like the problem with the internet and why I can't be on it is because people can just say whatever they want and people like respond to it as if it's a serious statement.
Yeah. And I guess the AI situation isn't helping either. So.
No, but I think that is like the problem is I think the quickest version of the AI problem is I feel like it's gonna replace jobs but not art. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, you know, you see people turn on it like immediately as like from artistic standpoints, you know, of like, oh no, this is terrible. Like this doesn't do anything, but a million CEOs are going to use it to replace people and their jobs.
It's more on the profit, the mindset of like earning quick money instead of like, you know, delivering something that I guess is high quality that leaves an impact on someone or
Right.
something.
Yeah, like, you know, obviously, you know, the most obviousness of things just being, you know, whatever your metric for like quality is not like a good, like people don't go to art for like purely technical quality, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They go to it for like a stronger bit of, you know, human connection. And
Exactly.
like a lot of time, you know, that imperfection a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to like creating things, there are still those people who think that they can just prompt their way into art and into like being praised or whatever. But it just kind of doesn't work that way.
Right.
By which I mean that when you are making something from your own heart and you get to know people, I got to know so many people just because I wrote some of my stuff and put it on the internet and someone read it and someone was like, hey, that's good.
Right.
And we started talking and we started collaborating, and you know, it's about the connection in the end. AI cannot do this for me.
Right. No, you cannot connect like when someone makes something with, you know, AI, there's also not like, oh, like what if like you don't like want to know the person who made it because nobody made it, you know.
Nobody made it, and there's no intent and there's no thought put into it because there are no decisions that you make.
Yeah, that is the
Only like the first prompt or whatever, I guess.
Right. Even if you spent like an hour like massaging your prompts, you know, where do you get? You still don't get to like. It's still like intent is the thing that I thought about like most recently of like that really sticks with me, like that how much it all just lacks intent, you know?
Exactly. Like there is nothing behind it. It's meant to look pretty or to fill space.
Right. And then like it just does not have like you can't find like the reason somebody would have made it. You're just like, oh, I guess somebody like it looks nice, I suppose, but why would anyone have ever made it? Like once you once you start thinking about the decisions that an artist makes into something, those don't exist because no artist made those decisions.
Exactly.
And it just becomes this weird amalgamation of art. But let me clean up. I'm getting obsessed about this weird dead zone. Sorry. If anyone knows why like a little pocket of your screen would not allow you to click on anything. Who knows though? But that said, so Gnarl, you mentioned having I'd go, oh well, you don't know if they're games, loosely about interactive fiction. So what led you to getting like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try getting into, what got you interested in the idea of game development in the first place?
So there's like the pre-story and then there's the actual story.
Right.
The pre-story was basically that I started looking at like those choice of games, free demos for Android mobile phone. So I could just like play something, anything, because I didn't have a computer back then.
Right.
So it was just like to download another demo, just read through the text adventure until it locks you out. I don't have the money. Even if I did, it wasn't like enough. So I just played those demos and I thought maybe I can do it someday I can do I can do something like this. But I left this because I opened up Twine and it was set to Twine has free story formats. There's Harlow, there's Sugar Cube, and then there's Chapbook. It's on default on Harlow. I hate Harlow. So unfortunately, I opened up Twine, and it was just completely not vibing with me, so I just left it. And then a couple of years later, it was like the pandemic and whatnot, and I was kind of bored, and there was this very shady VN company. They are still around, but I'm not going to name them. They are kind of, yeah. And
there's not many VN companies.
Yeah, but like there was this shady VN company, and they had this whole thing that, oh, maybe one day you can write for us. Maybe one day you can write for us. And there was this one time when one of their employees just like, I was publishing some fanfics for this game, but like I never really like wrote a visual novel or an interactive fiction piece. And this one, their employee at the time, came to me and was like, "Oh, you would be such a great visual novel writer." And I was like, "Girl, who told you that? You only have my fanfics. You are a writer for this company. You know exactly that those are two different things and like two different types of writing. You don't know if I'm gonna be a good visual novel writer. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you that I am a visual novel writer and a good writer at that. But like, I need to show you that first. You can't just come and compliment me out of nowhere." So I started like dabbling in interactive fiction and whatnot. But then I thought that interactive fiction is kind of dead. It was a very wrong assumption.
Yes.
But I thought that it was dead. So I switched up to visual novels and just, it kind of went from there.
Yeah, because the interactive fiction is one of those like interesting parts of game development that's been thriving forever, but like in its own little corner,
Mm-hmm.
it's its own world.
Yeah, it feels like it's a completely different thing than like video games. But I feel like that is increasingly true about a lot of people, working within games. Is that it's just a different thing, but they all get clumped together. Like if I, the problem with video games is if you no matter what kind of you're working on, you keep bumping up against industry. Like you keep bumping up against the industry side because it's not like as clear like little subcultures that you can like just find your way into. Especially when you're like promoting stuff online.
I'll just be honest.
Yeah.
I tend to call my like the entire body of my work. I like to call them just works.
Yeah.
Like this is my work instead of like a game. But it isn't because I don't consider visual novels or interactive fiction games, because I do consider them games. I just think that mine don't qualify as games, just like out of my own thought.
Right. But like game is also like such an, abstract.
It has like, what even is a game? But also, I feel like a game kind of requires something more than just this linearity that I'm doing.
Right.
I really like that linearity. And therefore, I don't tend to call my works games, but if anyone else was like, yeah, this is interactive fiction, it's not a game, I would come there fighting.
You're right. It's such like a loose, kind of like complicated kind of medium, where it's what qualifies, or like, is it even important that something is a game or not a game?
Exactly.
Like how much does that even matter? I think like the clumsiness is just because we don't have another little bucket to put it into. Besides like visual novel, or interactive fiction, but those just are culturally seen like under the umbrella of games still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still kind of being considered a lesser version of gaming. Like it's not like there's no I don't want to say.
No, you could say there's no respect for them.
Kind of being dismissed compared to like other forms of gaming.
Yes.
Other forms of game plays, essentially. But those two kind of also overlap and are intrinsically connected from one another. Because I've seen like visual novel developers who move to interactive fiction, and interactive fiction writers who are now moving into like visual novels. So it's kind of like I don't know how to call it. It's like I don't want to say osmosis, but it's like a very thriving, like space.
Yeah.
It's a very,
It's very like fluid,
Yeah.
Where what, or more like both kind of feel sequestered away from games in sort of the same way.
Exactly.
Because you don't like have to quote like obstacle-oriented game design has got a real death grip on video games, and a lot of stuff within visual novels and interactive fiction they don't have like obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
or your obstacles are like personal interpretation of a work, which is still a massive obstacle, but it's one that's less obvious for people to see.
I mean, this could be true, but like in the choice-based interactive fiction, more like parser stuff can be very puzzle-oriented, where you can and have to overcome obstacles.
Right. No, there's definitely.
But
like
I don't do parsers.
Yes, you're right. There's definitely a wide range of like, or I think it's more that I think that they're accepted both as hand in hand as both being like, these are both interactive fiction. Whether it's a linear narrative or a complicated puzzle, which is maybe something you don't encounter the same where like that's where you get the derogatory walking simulator from. In more traditional video games, if you don't have a challenge, it's something different. It's pushed aside as something different.
The thing with that is that I feel that many people don't see like the emotional stuff as obstacles,
Yes.
and they don't see like character arcs as obstacles. Because like even when you look at like Voicemail Laura, which I did play,
Yeah.
of course, there is this emotional layer that you have to go through, and I feel like that the character maybe isn't going through the obstacle of like, I don't know, going through some door or like conquering a goal, but there is this emotional arc where the obstacle is like the memory of that person.
Yes, yeah, there was a comment I saw in a game that I think about forever and will think about forever. It was something like, I don't think I got it, but I beat the game, which is a description of that kind of like interaction with like the emotional or the intellectual challenge that games present can be. They're not. You can't beat a boss that way. It doesn't gate the progress of playing through a game. Voicemail Laura doesn't check in with you halfway through to ask you if you're understanding it emotionally. And then require you to understand it emotionally to beat the other half of it, so to speak.
Exactly. I mean, it's more like I made it just like tell a story. So
Right.
you're just experiencing the story and you're letting it. You just need to sit with it.
Right.
And then it's over.
And that is like
there's no end goal.
Yeah, there's, and that's true of like pretty much all art except for like commercial video games. There is no end boss. You don't have to take a test in the middle of a book to even know if you're understanding at all what's happening. You can just read a book front to back, never understand a piece of it. But like, I read the full book. Which is like, I think not like recognizing that more complicated aspect of art that games encompass. It's kind of what like locks it into that kind of like immaturity in a lot of ways. Of not engaging with that at all. Because you can, like most visual novels, especially if you're making a renpai, you can in theory turn off all the skip blocks and just hit tab and fire through the entire thing in like 3 seconds. But how much of it, like,
I saw people on Steam doing exactly that. There are like entire profiles dedicated only to speedrunning through things in the fastest way possible. And one of my friends, a visual novel that I playtested, had this comment that was like, this can be beatable in 3 seconds as long as you have a good autoclicker.
Oh my god.
Right. It's like, well, did you though? Did you finish the game, or if you just got to the end screen,
Exactly, there's a difference.
Yeah, it's the disconnect in terms of it, like, because games are just too big. Like they're too wide an expression in terms of what the medium can do to be all called one thing, But they lump them all together in this weird, awkward. These are on Steam, like right next to all these visual novels are on Steam, right next to, cozy farming sim 57.
Yeah.
And one is meant to be maybe it's a 30-minute to an hour experience that you are meant to fully engage with, and one is like a time-sucking hobby, that you engage with in a different way. But they're just like lumped with very little differentiators, besides like I guess category tags. Which does not help a lot. in terms of, meaningful artistic engagement.
Yeah. There's always like this wave of the new popular thing, and at first it's kind of genuine, but then as it goes on, you kind of start to ask yourself, is it really because you want to make this, or is this because like you think you need to make this?
Yes. No, that is, I think like modern era social media has amplified the I need to make the things that I think that people want me to make, more than anything. Because like, oh, well, if I make something familiar, it'll get, it's the eternal problem of fan art will always get you more attention than your OCs or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like you're making fan art, that was someone's OC at one point in time. That's not a fan, unless we're all just making unless we're all just making Gilgamesh fan art or whatever. Like, and even he did not exist. Somebody had to make that up. The only fan art that's not made up is if you're making fan art of real people, which is weird. Anyway. But it is like the... I think more about how games don't have necessarily the same independent spaces, that thrive on independent art that other mediums might have. I thought about this a lot as I did too, contrasting festivals back to back, and like they were very different than one another. And I've seen it like in what is an artist's table at an indie comic show versus their table at like a giant anime convention, and seeing the contrast in the two, and games feel like they're all anime conventions, so to speak. What is the thing that'll hit the widest?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to any convention like that, so
yeah,
I'll just trust you.
Yeah, no, I've seen I realized that when I saw an individual person who I'd seen a different thing, I was like, oh right, like all their like originally have like one comic. I think this person didn't have any. It was just all giant anime prints. And then
it kind of was, and then with the convention, so I don't really remember much of it anymore.
And it is this kind of like, but it feels also very generational. I think games are changing like drastically in like the last 5 years, even in terms of like, who you're seeing. Like it feels like the mainstream space is retracting more from the independent space than ever before, but the independent space is like growing and it's healthier, and you can't like click on a page without falling backwards into like some other little game collective or games group that's just like hanging out around each other. And which I think is like, how like more independent spaces sort of like thrive through this kind of like natural like artistic cooperation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm just looking at like the collaboration things I was a part of, and I'm already seeing 2 other. No, I'm looking at your page that says that. I'm like, these are already 2 other Indiepocalypse contributors also within this collection of things you have contributed to, or you were a part of.
Yes, and that's incredible to me, because there was a time where I was looking at the Indiepocalypse, and there was just this one giant streak where each and every issue had someone I knew in them,
Yeah.
or even like games that I play tested.
Yes, that is like I think of a lot of the daisy chain of Indiepocalypse of on this show. People have been like, when I ask people, hey, how'd you? Oh, I forgot to ask the two of you that question. I'll get to it in a second. Well, I'm going to ask you right now. Speaking of that chain, hey, now, how did you originally find Indiepocalypse?
Me?
Or either of you?
Yeah, go first.
General.
Yes, Narelle, how did you find Indiepocalypse then?
Okay. Are you sick of hearing about Neo Interactives yet?
No, because when I was going to mention these little groups, I was going to mention Neo Interactives as one of them.
Yeah, so it was through Neo Interactives.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
the daisy chain continues.
Like the whole thing. It was like a whole thing. I remember that someone mentioned that, hey guys, you might want to check if your game is in this to-play collection by this Pizza Pranks guy. And I kept seeing that there was this collection to play by this Pizza Pranks guy. But I always looked at it and I saw to play. And then I saw that it was like 11K games on it. And the only thing I could think about was, nobody plays that many games. You're not going to play that.
Welcome to the illness of my
Sorry.
brain.
Wait, that's impressive,
Sorry.
actually.
Like, that is just how my brain I'm like, yeah, I will never get to all of these things. I have a Bandcamp thing that has 1,500 albums in it, of albums that I theoretically want to listen to on Bandcamp in a folder. It's just, my brain I just throw everything in a gigantic pile. And then it's like I build my own library. And I get to browse through it every now and then and see what's in here. And then it is like this, and also when I do that, and then people submit their games, it's a great way of someone like basically walks in and go, I recommend this one, and I go, perfect, I'm gonna play that one right now.
Yeah.
So it's always like a great thing when someone does see that they were added and then submit it, because it frees me from a little bit of choice paralysis. But I have also made a second list called To Play 2 that I have since...
I saw this one too.
I've since been moving games that I've actually played over to that in a slow glacial process. Because I'm never going to dedicate the time to actually do it, so occasionally I'll be like, oh yeah, I actually played that one like 3 years ago, let me move it over when I'm scrolling through that list. So, perfect. And I have a couple of questions for you as we approach the end of our segment here, our 40-minute segment, our double-length, double-guest segment. And Arel, you have, a big to being a previous listener, I will ask you second, since you, in theory, have prepared for these two questions.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. So I have a couple questions for you. First up, hey, what's your favorite type of rock? Uh-oh. I don't know if this is a long pause for thought or a problem with connections.
In case it wasn't clear, that was a question for you, Silver.
Yeah, Silver, hello.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, good.
I'll just answer for now.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess anything that's smooth to the touch. I love touching rocks that are smooth to the touch. It's a very tactile, sensory thing.
Perfect.
I just love rubbing my fingers on them and just calms me down. I guess smooth rocks.
Yes, I mean it's a type of rock I accept is granular as specific scientific names and as loose as smooth.
I'm not familiar with rock rocks, unfortunately.
Oh, neither am I.
I just like them smooth.
And secondary question, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I actually don't know Toho, but I feel like I've heard about it. I just not sure if it's like the same Toho that I think I've heard about.
I'm talking about the Toho with the U's in it, which is the long-running Dojin series of bullet hell games with a thriving fan game community.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry.
No, there's no
Maybe
need.
I've seen some artwork, but
There's no need to apologize for
sorry.
it. Okay. It's not a thing you can be faulted for. It's just a consider it an opportunity to learn. Go, what is Toho? I need to prepare for next time. Now the prepared yes. Now, hey, what's your favorite type of rock?
At first I wanted to say that it's obsidian because when you like chip its flakes, it's super sharp, and I think it's very cool. But I think I'm gonna go with basalt because it's like a less basic answer. And basalt columns, like the ones in the Giant's Causeway, where I were. I've visited this place. It was beautiful, breathtaking. I think basalt is very cool.
Perfect. I'm looking at this Giant's Causeway. I'm like, what is this thing? Oh, this is way out in the middle. This little dot says it's out in the middle of nowhere, or not in the middle of nowhere, but it's.
I am in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, well, I'm not in the middle of nowhere, but I'm also not centrally located, so I'm.
Giant's Causeway is arguably less of a middle of nowhere than where I am right now.
Right. It has a bunch of little like top 10 facts to know about it. It's a landmark. That's on the coast. There are plenty of people on the coast. Yes. No, as Internet says, do you know Toho is a puzzle? This podcast is interactive fiction. True, but it's not a game because, as previously established on the show itself, a game is a thing where you find keys to open doors. And so second question. Hey, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I wanted to get into Toho like million of years ago. However, I suck at bullet hells, so I never got to it, and therefore I don't have a favorite Toho character.
Well, let me tell you about the wide world of Toho fan games. You could even...
Yeah, I think I need to get into that, but like I have so many things to get into that it's not really on the top list of my priorities.
Hey, welcome to my life. You know, that's how you wind up with a list of games that's 12,000 games long.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like, if there's a list built for the man who has all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But
we all have limited time.
Yes, we do. And so, what do you do with it? Who knows? But that is too deep a question to ask at the end of a segment. So, hey. Narelle Silver, thank you for joining me here today. We're going to go
Thank you for having us.
On a break and then be back in about, 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Goodbye until then. Comfortable within the break zone where no one can hear us say anything. Oh, no, people can still hear us because I didn't transition correctly. Nice try. I almost screwed it up. Okay, welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Swansea Sounds. I sold my soul on eBay. We are here with our next guest, who you may know in the context of Indiepocalypse. That is to say, with the cover for issue number 70 of Indiepocalypse, which I was hoping it had a bit of perfect synergy and it would just kind of pop up on there, and it did not. Catalina Roofing. Catalina, how you doing today?
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you here. But as a cover artist, you come most directly from the world of cartooning, illustrating, comics. label you decide to put onto that?
Yeah, definitely cartoonist and just all around artist is kind of how I refer myself.
Yeah, it's it's the kind of like whereas kind of we talked in the previous segment, a lack of words, too many things fall in the umbrella of one word. You can use a lot of words. You're kind of fall into the opposite end of too many words to describe the different things. Too many labels. Too many career things that are easy to fall into of like whether you're am I a cartoonist or am I an illustrator? Am I a comic artist, etc. But similar to the other guests, if people are unfamiliar with your work, how would you describe your most recent work, Mutineers? I'm not gonna ask like suddenly describe your entire body of work, but you have a new fresh comic.
My body of work is, I think, very unified.
Yeah,
including Mutineers by taking a lot of inspiration from my real day-to-day life and then filtering it through a fictional lens, varying degrees of realism as like just regular people comics, or a couple books ago I did one where everyone in Boston was like some sort of fantasy elf or orc, so that sort of thing.
yes.
It's still very grounded in reality.
Yeah, I think I bought whatever. I'm just trying to think of like how long ago would that have been? Did I get Slowly But Surely?
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yep, that's the one.
Yes, and that would have been probably what, like 7?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
That was when that came out.
But yeah, no, that is people, the people of Boston are not usually bats or orcs or animals, but it is capturing all the same stories or ideas of works that also have humans in them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the same theme in my work, is a lot of it about like characters dealing with some kind of interpersonal conflict with like other people, like whether it's like a bullying situation or interpersonal like romance or family, and it usually centers around the experience of someone who is autistic who might struggle to understand people and wants to understand and connect with people, but is maybe facing some kind of rejection or some kind of obstacle in really being able to connect with people.
Right, and that's like one of the one of the key benefits to art in a lot of the ways, where it's art itself is like a strong form of connection, or like even they can often like bridge that gap where language wouldn't be able to.
Yes, definitely. And even when I'm writing like the script and the dialogue in my comics, it's easier sometimes, like I kind of like reach an epiphany that way, and I'm like sometimes it's easier to say things through comics than in other ways.
Right, because like even when we're making art that is like very personal, there's that kind of like layer of abstraction it grants us. To be like, well, this isn't me. This is like my experiences, and then increasingly, it's almost like a conversation you can have with yourself.
Yeah, I have been doing fiction because it's easier to, I don't know, like just not have to deal with like, oh, I drew so and so in my comic, right, and my parents, and yeah, just dealing with that. I'm like, I don't know how these like other like really famous autobio cartoonists do it, but like I'm like, I don't want to get like sued or for like libel and slander.
Right.
Yeah. So it really helps to be able to put like that veneer of like, oh, this is a work of fiction on it.
Right, and people, and you never know how people like reading themselves in something, even if it's not like a strictly like negative portrayal of like just. It can be odd to see yourself in something so directly, even if when you're pulling from life, people can say, "Oh, this is maybe a part of me," which I think even like as a reader allows people that kind of like degree of disconnect. I think. But it is a complicated space, of have you ever, and I imagine you never thought like, oh, let me just do something purely autobio. I'll just like, you prefer the strict that layer of abstraction.
Well, I have done like little journal zines, like where I'll take like journal comics that I've made like while I'm on a vacation somewhere or a trip.
Okay.
I really try to focus on my perspective. Like I'll maybe draw like my spouse or like my siblings in a particular scene, but like I'll include them, but I'll really just focus it more on like my experience because I can't like say like how someone's gonna feel about that.
Right.
And I don't really distribute them that far. Like if I'm going to like a little zine fair, I'll say like, oh, here's a zine about visiting my sisters in New York. But I won't like print a lot of copies. It's kind of more just like something I give out to my friends, or I can like trade with like other cartoonists. Like, oh, here's just like a little thing we can trade.
Right.
And then the stuff that I'm making that's fiction is more like I would like it to have a wider reach.
Right, like it's kind of stuff you would bring to like a bigger show, and that's and even I think even like journaling like has a different approach to sort of like it feels almost intrinsically like, oh, it is definitely from me more than something that is more autobio narrative, So even that itself is more like inherently personal in terms of like the medium.
Yeah, sometimes I think like, oh, I was just happy to like keep a journal during this trip. I don't think I need to like release it out into the world.
Right.
Like I'm just happy to have made the thing, and I'm getting more satisfaction sometimes of like not having to release everything to the public.
Yes, that is the despite the infinite pressure of the modern artist, sometimes like art that just is kept for yourself is fine on its own, because it creates things weird, and it creates this weird relationship to your art, especially if it is something more personal, to ask how many likes did this very personal short journal zine get,
Yeah, it started to feel kind of sad after a while, and I was like, oh, I worked so hard on this.
Yeah.
And it got like, yeah, just a few likes.
And then like, right, and then it's like, well, what is your, it just kind of like takes away your relationship from it. Like the public sort of like, knows its way in. And then like kind of like makes your own personal experience theirs in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, I was thinking about that comment in the previous segment about playing like speed running the game, the visual novel. And I'm like, yeah, I got that. In comics it's so similar because people will brag about like how fast they read like a full graphic novel. They'll just be like, oh, I just in 5 minutes I read your entire comic.
Right.
And I'm just thinking like, yeah, but there's like the visual details, and I have like each panel, sometimes there might be like little background details, like you can blow by it, but you're gonna miss so much.
Right, right. There's, people. There's, the old cliche of how many words are in a picture. There's a lot of tiny, like every little line usually has, carries some weight of importance to it, or whether intentional or not, has, hey, look, this is like it's just not, the pictures aren't just like backdrops for words, um, that are like the plot. So it is like a weird, but I think there are sort of, at least pockets of different audiences that like are more engaged more deeply with comics in that way. I picked up I assume the two most recent ones, Mutineers and 13 Step At, or at least two paired works.
Yes, yeah, those I finished this year. They were my latest.
But I had picked those both up at Mice, which is if you're in the New England area, it's a highly recommended show via me. But like that is like, feels like a concentration of like, oh, here's a lot of people who are like very interested to get like into a book,
Oh yeah, it's totally like the best crowd for what I'm trying to do.
Where I think you might have a harder time if you're at like bring the exact same table setup to like a Anime Boston or something, which I imagine people are there like, well, where's the Goku, where's
Yeah, I think Anime Boston. I've noticed it's shifting a little bit towards like creator own like original works, but it's also like I don't sell like cute little charms or stickers,
right.
Really. My focus is on like the craft of making the comic book.
Right. It's like there are these different kind of like these are alluding to the different sorts of like venues that where ostensibly you could get like an artist alley table at like at a very high attendance show like that, but it's the difference between like a wide audience and a dedicated audience, where wouldn't it be unsurprising, where if you're very like original comic focused, to do better at Mice than you would at like Anime Boston or a similar large show. But because it is a different sort of vibe. So do you prefer then to do mostly like small, like indie shows or like little zine fests and other similar kind of like local zine fest sort of things?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I look for other like indie comics shows, even some that are out of state.
Right.
Like SPX in Maryland is a huge one.
Yes.
And yeah, those that is really a great audience for me. And zine fairs as well, although sometimes I feel like I can fall into this category where I like the zines are people who do not necessarily make comics. They're kind of like, they might be like poetry or photography. So it's almost like so broad. And then my comics are a little bit on the margin, but it is something, it's still, I self-publish everything. A lot of my stuff I also print at home, or it's very DIY. So
yeah,
as long as like the zine umbrella includes people who make their own comics, I'm happy to be there. But I've also been at some where I felt a little bit like a little bit on the side, like, oh, like maybe people aren't really buying into like looking for comics.
Right. Like I have done like usually local markets, but even done like a zine fest, with video games but it is of the same, like, because I also am at home kind of like building these little cassette things from scratch. Or not from scratch, I'm not making the plastic, but you know what I mean. And then it's like, oh yeah, so I can in theory go into like, cause Zine Fest are, but also, the one I did, there were like a lot of like, written fiction zines, and just kind of like, oh, I just made some prints, or it's a zine becomes a very wide umbrella for a lot of different things, and it's more of a like a, you're never sure what that means, other than like a small thing I made myself. I think is probably maybe, like you said, like the DIY aspect of it is a kind of like uniting spirit behind that.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever tried like doing like just as a piece of curiosity, ever attempted like a larger kind of like, I guess you would call them like fan expos, more or less? It would probably be the best way to describe those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what the biggest show I've been to, or like most mainstream. Um, because like the last time I was at Fan Expo in Boston was 2016.
Right, I forgot. I forgot Boston had one that was just called Fan Expo.
Yeah. And I didn't even have my own table. I had like a slice of a table.
Right.
Um and yeah, actually, like I remember I sold quite a few things. I think people were just like interested in some original comics. Um but I don't know, like my setup is just not very polished,
Right.
and my work, I do everything like hand drawn. Um so I kind of like, I'm trying to seek out like festivals that have like a more chaotic atmosphere.
Right, because there is that kind of like polish, that like, and I use polish with with the broadest like quotes, like whatever that means, but the like it looks most the cleanest products, are usually at those big conventions, where I'll often walk like Artist Alley, being like, oh yeah, well maybe I'll find a cover artist, somewhere here, and a lot of like styles, like singular styles don't jump out the same way. Like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
even if I wonder if those like, I bet a lot of those artists have more like distinct singular styles, but like once you filter it into like convention merch, it kind of like all starts to a lot of it starts to blend together and fall into like a few, like a much smaller range of styles.
Yeah, another motivation I have is that my work is increasingly becoming more, how would I say, like maybe niche and less palatable. Both a combination of just like seeking out what I'm interested in, which is like talking like very openly about like being trans and like transsexuality.
Yeah.
But also like it was a little bit of frustration of trying to be published by a mainstream editor, and like the big publishing route. And I had a comic that I'd done about high school cross country, and I was like, okay, like I feel inspired to do this, even though this is like a very like normal sort of topic. But after I was getting a lot of rejections, and I just thought like, okay, this is like my most like palatable idea, so I'm going to just follow my interest, which is making a series about two trans adults who fall in love at a mental hospital, and I'm just gonna follow my freak.
Right.
And it turns out following my freak has been very good, and I'm like very happy doing this like Mutineers series.
Yeah, I think that is like what draws people to like there's that draw to, I want to see someone's like personal work, there is like, hey, I don't think anyone would ever complain about getting that, like, that big sports YA bag, publishing. But there is, people will connect with something when it's more personal, and they'll spread to people. That's how you find like those people at like a big convention, like, who are like, oh, actually, this is what I really want, and it's like, it's the curse that artists have to be like really popular for it to be their career, kind of is like truly just like sucks in the simplest terms.
Yeah, I've learned that any sort of popularity or success that artists have, sometimes it's just sheer luck,
right?
Just out of nowhere, like someone picked up my comic and it got into the right hands, and yeah, so I think I've gotten a lot more used to just being just everything is about, like, you just never know, it's all about luck or random, and I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. And something that I get a lot of personal satisfaction, is when I can make a comic that looks like really beautiful and well done, and when I can tell like a very like emotionally powerful story, when I can hit the beats of like a good story, and also that like I'm enjoying drawing the characters and the backgrounds. So I think like I just have to like be very like self-indulgent and involved. So I'm just gonna like keep kind of chasing that as I continue to make comics.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it works from my perspective. I think it's working. As a part of this, the whole long cover projects, and why I don't include games people, is because a lot of it is like, hey, people, check out these comic arts I really like. I want you to check out their work. And that is what like draws me to like your work, and a lot of independent work, is like, oh no, like I feel like I could not buy your comic from anybody else. There's not another person that would have made that.
Yeah, I love that that aspect, and really appreciate your support.
And like that is the and I think that's to mention the first time briefly, like that is why art is like not really going anywhere, even if it maybe gets harder in the moment for artists to survive, is because if people are going to want that human connection that you get in art.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was again thinking about that discussion where it's like there's no connection in AI because no one made it. There's
right.
There's no conversation happening.
Right. Even if they had someone fully train you, and like, or the other way around, a machine trained on your art, and like, oh yeah, now this machine can basically make my art. It still couldn't make a new story, really. It'll just make rehashes and remixes of the stories you've already made. Which kind of like is endlessly pointless, and I think part of the reason I feel more people are going to be drawn towards more like visually distinct, like personal styles, even if they kind of sometimes lack the quote unquote like perfection, so to speak, of another professional. All these a bunch of quotes being thrown around on all these words.
Oh
that don't
yeah,
mean anything.
absolutely.
But the corporate ideal of this art is nice and clean or whatever, which means to say that you can see less of the person in it, I guess, and it can be better associated with the brand because a strong personal style overrides like a corporate brand so quickly. Actually, if you want to believe it, I have a couple questions for you.
Oh, sounds great.
Hey, what's your favorite type of rock?
I love a conglomerate.
Okay, this is the handiness of my research. Where I'm like, what is this going on?
Yeah, it's like a very chunky rock that just has like little pieces of smaller rocks.
Okay.
I think they're in geological years. I think they're a little bit more recent.
Right.
And just.
Oh yeah, I wonder how much of it is just like us moving stuff around,
Yeah. They're just all stuck together, and there's a lot of interesting textures.
Yeah, this is an exciting new rock for the question for me to look at. Okay, I'm done looking at rocks. Hey, do you have a favorite Toho character?
So I don't really know Toho very well, but my spouse used to always draw Chiruno, I think is her name, the little blue-haired fairy.
Yes.
Yes, so I've come to really be fond of this character, even though I don't have like a context for her. I just like, oh, she's cute and she's like a little ice fairy.
Yeah, no, that is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chiruno, exactly. No, that is, I think, the charm of also Toho conceptually of the way it exists in so many people's like periphery as a thing they're like vaguely aware of, even if they don't even know that's Toho. Like, I wonder how many people out there have seen Bad Apple in their life and don't realize that's Toho, And they're like, oh, I like those little silhouette dancing people that they make and everything.
Yeah, I think I played like one Toho rhythm game in an arcade, and I was like laughably bad at it, and I was like, oh, okay, now I know where it's from.
Yes, well, that's another piece of advice. If you want to learn how to play different rhythm games in arcades, learn some Toho songs because they're like company agnostic, so they'll be on a lot of different arcade cabinets. Whereas obviously, if you're playing a Sega game, it's not going to be in a Namco-made cabinet or whatever. But, Catalina, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you. It was great.
Glad to have you. I'm going to take another... Hello, we're back to more Indiepocalypse. That was Melt Banana's Mind Thief. I'd realized that I had played the cursed song on that album a couple times, Untitled, that is all the songs played at once. But I was like, I never actually played an actual song. Not that the vanilla Melt Banana is more cordant, if that's a word, but I like it. I'm down with it. I love it. It is I will say infinitely more listenable to normal people than all of them being played at once. But we are here with our next guest, who you may know from issue. Oh no, I forgot to put what number it was. It's very recent though.
It was 69, I believe.
69. I knew it was somewhere within the last three. But weirdly, it's like been that what's it called? Like the older ones have gotten better just because I've had to like remember where the games are in them so frequently, so it's kind of like built up in my brain. Anyway, Shitty Words Installed by Anton. Anton, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you.
A question right up at the top. Hey, if people... Hey, how'd you find Indiepocalypse?
I think I found it through like the itch.io landing page or something. I don't really remember, but has been through like itch.io recommendation, I believe.
Okay. Yes. No, that is a very frequent way that it kind of just keeps on popping up. So I'm glad that someone was telling me at one point that like like it got actively recommended, or like here's something you should try?
Yeah, I think it has been, hasn't it been featured like sometimes or something? Because
Oh, yeah.
I
No.
definitely saw it on the front page a few times.
Yes. No, it definitely gets very. I'm fortunate that it gets regular features on the front page. I think 71 is on there right now. Yeah, 71 currently featured. It's how I sneak art games onto the Itch.io front page.
Nice.
Because, for better or for worse, they like, when your curation comes from a small number of people, maybe one person, they're mostly like gameplay-y sort of things, which is fine. But I'm like, let me sneak in some. Feels like I get to sneak in some freak shit, onto the front page every now and then. But if people are unfamiliar, how would you describe Shitty Wizard Installer?
It is like my recollection of how it was to install a game on Windows XP, like the mid 2000 Windows version, and so it was when I started like tinkering with computer, and I always remembered those like bars, filling green bars, and I'm not understanding what was installing really. So I wanted to make a game about filling bars.
Yes, and it definitely, like, you've nailed the aesthetics down perfectly of the idea of it. And I also have a strong soft spot for like interesting incremental stuff,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess I didn't tell, like, because I know that some people on the comments of that game like said, "Oh, I didn't understand that it was an incremental game." So yeah, it is one as well.
Yes.
That it's a game where you have to click a lot to get to the end, and at some point it goes by itself. But I made a fine point to have it be finite, like it's not an infinite game.
Yes.
It takes about 2 hours, I think, to finish-ish.
Incremental is like a very like fascinating genre of video game because it has very like art roots in it, like very like the a lot of like your core incremental games that we think of, or that I think of as being very core incremental games, have very like either artistic statement roots or do things like or make a lot of like interesting choices, you think of like, I think a lot of like, Candy Box, and what is it? I always forget what thing is dark. I think the room is dark. I think it's a dark room.
Yeah, a dark room, I think. Yeah.
Or even like Cookie Clicker, which is more in the clicking realm, but is also real weird, It's got a weird energy to it.
Yeah, there's the thing where it's always a trick on the player where you are like doing something simple and never stopping, and so you are always like, when you make a game like that, the idea is to go beyond the expectation, I guess.
Right. but and it's also and then you find yourself where it's like, but also you find yourself as the purest version of video games. So there are so many of them that are just exactly what you expect. They do not go beyond the surface. It is purely you filling bars for the sake of filling bars. And what if you paid us money to make your bars fill faster?
Yeah. For a while, I was working on hack and slash, like a mobile game,
Yeah.
and when I was working on it, like it felt like the whole economics of it was really I didn't like it at all, but it was for my job, so I
Right.
hadn't any part in it. And while working on it, I was like, I felt like I wanted to make a game where I strip everything, and it's just like, okay, it's just numbers in the end. So why lie to the player and just like do just one button, and it's just numbers that go up. And I guess like Shitty Wizard was kind of that.
Yeah, because it is like the incremental genre gets at the core of most. I'm gonna keep saying obstacle oriented because I thought of it in my brain and I like the way it sounds, and I'm gonna keep saying it till it either settles in or I get tired of it. But that style of design is so much more like I need to make my numbers go up. It's a world of numbers going up. And
it is really simple to, like, once you have a number that go up, and when you do that, like, there's a trick in the mind, and it feel like I guess we're conditioned by like modern society or something, but
yeah.
Once you have a number that go up, like, I feel I want it to go more up than
Yes.
before.
I want to reach the top. I want to get the highest number. I want to see the last number.
I really liked exploring that. That game I made during like, I think I ended the development during COVID, I believe.
Yeah. And how was it? Was there an impulse for to make a long incremental game and then put another full game behind it? Married to the conceit of it.
I would have loved to do it, but
But
like it took about. It must have taken me something around 6 months to do the installer game.
right.
So by the end, I was like, I needed it to be over.
Yes.
But yeah, I would have loved to make another game in it.
That is, that would be the beautiful wrinkle of the increment, but it's also like it gets enough, like that itself, that you've gamifying the installation of the game is the game itself is already almost this end result artistic statement on what is the point of a video game, of like what do we really want out of a video game in the end,
Yeah. It's all about setting goal. Like the goal is to finish the installation, and so once you're over, well, you got what you wanted for.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah, well, like once you've reached, or I guess it makes you Right, it's a good way to think of it. Like games are just kind of like whatever the goals that we set ourselves are, you know?
Yeah, my conception of like games is like it's a goal with rules you have to follow to get to the goal. It is very like restrictive because like it doesn't fit in like the narrative genre and stuff. I don't know that they fit in it, so it might not be the best. Like there's no all-encompassing definition, but it's not as it's maybe too restrictive. But that's the one I fit the most in, I think.
Right. It's I mean, it's just that messiness of games not having enough words to describe what games are, you know.
Yeah, it's like games is really weird. Like it's very broad. It's a very broad kind of things in the end.
Right. And so many pretty much all these things kind of fall under the same umbrella of like, you know, what games are. But you have to like be like, "Oh, well, where does it fit into this or that?" And it's where they're sort of lacking in kind of like a more cohesive sort of independent space, which I think is just a thing that comes with time, you know. I think once you get that sort of thing, you worry less about that. Like when people go, "Oh, these are just independent games," you know. They're made by independent people, and then we like, you know, whenever we get the new word for what indie means, you know.
We are due for like a new kind of thing, I think.
Yes, we just need a new word because indie doesn't mean what indie ought to mean. And I think that's just something that comes for all art forms at some point. once
Yeah.
indie is something that can make money, it just gets consumed by people trying to make money, and gets subsumed by like very safe, familiar works. You know, I terrified to check whatever like, you know, what end of the year best indie game list looks like, you know.
It's weird. It's weird to be like in the same bucket, like to have like visual novel and Balatro and Expedition 33, like all in the same bucket. So it feel like, well, then it's just like it's things.
Right.
It's not a word, like doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, like it doesn't even define an aesthetic really. Like sometimes for all its clumsiness, you know, indie can even be like, "Oh, well, I get aesthetically what that means," even if it like encompasses a huge range of, you know, popularity levels and kind of like budgets and that sort of thing.
Because yeah, on that note, like I don't know how much it is known, but um, 10 years ago, I was working at Ubisoft, and at that time there was like a big corporate. It's not. It was an attempt at a takeover, basically from the historical holder of the company, and that other billionaires tried to like take the company to buy the company away from him.
Right.
And so we were having meetings where they were like keeping us like up to date on what was happening, because the like the boss felt like it was a hostile thing, and there were really like the Yves Guillemot, like the big CEO of the company, like he really like was talking about, yeah, we want to stay independent and stuff, and it was like very weird because, well, like that's the third biggest company, video game company. What are you
Right.
talking about being indie? But like from his point of view, I guess he wanted to be independent from that other guy.
Right, right. So, right, you know, at one point, our billion-dollar companies are independent, you know, uh, and then it is like, you know, like eventually everybody is independent because, you know, somebody is the boss, somebody is the person who owns something, you know.
Yeah, also like it's independent from what? From what are
Right.
you not dependent? Like it's always the thing. Like I don't understand what from.
Right. Right. It just like becomes a handy marketing tool because I think, you know, Ubisoft also did well. I think there was a word for it. They had like a not independent initiative, but they might have even tried to call it that. I'm trying to remember what it was called. You know.
Yeah, they did like some kind of like smaller label stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time I was there, like they released a game called Grow Up,
That's the one I was
and
thinking
then
of. Yes.
yeah, and it was, at least for a time, I think it was on Steam. It had the indie tag,
Right.
and it was like, I I see what you mean, but also then it doesn't mean anything. It's yeah.
Right. Right. If it is like ultimately like okay, here we're gonna let these smaller teams work on something, you know, which is like a health. If you're gonna have gigantic corporations, allowing like smaller teams to experiment is one of the healthier approaches to it, you know.
I mean, it was definitely one of the more interesting games they released over the past 10 years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But from their point of view, like it brought basic, like it didn't exist, so they don't see it as like as something, and eventually they shut the team off, I believe.
Right. I'm looking at the reflections, colon or comma. A Ubisoft studio made 3 games.
Yeah.
Uh,
And basically it was a team they bought, like it was another company they bought and they integrate
oh,
them in
so
their
wasn't
big
even right.
and then so they bought them, and then they said, yeah, you can keep making games, and eventually it's like, okay, now you guys have to come on the big stuff.
Yes, we need someone to make these Assassin's Creed whatever textures.
Yeah, please, we need more windows in our cities.
Yes, there is like, you know, the the ideal like I said, the ideal version of that company is like you have your breadwinners and whatever, you make $1 billion off of those, but then you like if you're approaching it from actually like an artistic ideal, the ideal is like, yeah, we'll make our giant tentpole releases that make us the money, but the money is to fund like projects that can fail, you know,
Yeah,
financially.
that's the idea. It never stayed that way.
No.
It's like, well, now that we have a project that makes money, why not make a project that make, like, it's always why can't we make the number bigger,
Yes.
basically?
I feel like companies flirt with the idea every so often and then don't really stick to it long term.
Yeah, pretty much.
because I mean it's especially in games you have the problem because they're like you don't have prestige, in games the same way of like you don't have that like secondary critical sphere that is like the arts sphere, in games that exist in a lot of other mediums of like, well, yeah, these are the popular things, and then these are the critically popular things. In games, it feels like they're often lumped in as the same thing,
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of that GQ top 100 list is the most cursed thing in the world. But it's
yeah.
But it's also like a perfect exemplification of like, no, this is like the problem. I look at it and go, this is the problem with video games, is encapsulated within this list.
Sure, but the thing is, like, this is also the misnaming of games.
Yes.
Because they aren't the same thing as what you showcase in the Indiepocalypse,
No, right. Like there's like they fall under very different like categories. I've hit the realization that I'm not gonna get rid of the word games anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder to say, well, these things are not games, they're whatever, interactive art, or it's harder to make a new name for the niche thing, because you have to both get people to pay attention to the niche thing and then get them to pay attention to the new name for it.
Yeah, sure.
So my line of thinking is often like, well, what if I center the conversation around, Fortnite or whatever, and I go, well, Fortnite is more like just like an interactive hobby or whatever, barely a game.
Yeah, it is an interactive thing, and yeah.
It's who knows. Also, this real cursed version of this website. I searched for that GQ list and it got me on IGN, and then I have like 100 games, 2.9 thousand hours to beat. Says how long to beat integration.
Oh no, yeah.
And what does that do? Like just the game length is a whole other thing, which is what really makes you think of games as hobbies. The hobby grade video game. That is meant to like spend a lot. You're meant to spend a lot of time on. But speaking of being around for a long time, rocks. What's your favorite type of rock, Anton?
So I've been thinking about that question. I don't have a name for that rock, but I have a rock where there's a hole and there's a tiny pebble that is stuck in the bigger rock, and I think I found it on the beach a few years ago. I think that's my favorite.
Okay, I don't know if there is a rock, because it feels adjacent in spirit to the aforementioned conglomerate of rocks coming together, but a very different type of rock in that it exists. Wait. Oh no, with holes in them. I thought I found it for a second. But I did not. And second question. Hey, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I think it probably Remu, like the red.
Yes.
The red priest.
Yes, the titular, not the. I mean, there is no titular Toho, but your face character of Toho.
Yeah, that's pretty much I know her and Marisa.
Yes.
And yeah, I've played a few Toho game, and it's always the ones that I know of. And yeah, but I really like their design, like Reimu specifically. Like, I think it's a really very recognizable like style and interesting interesting ribbon, and I've seen a lot of artists like drawing her in many style, and it's always cool.
Yeah, and like always like, and that's the eternal strength of Toho is like how like just like strong, simple designs, easily identifiable.
Yeah.
Well, Anton, thank you for joining me here. We're gonna go on one last break, and then we'll be back in about a minute. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Kodomo Gun with Tsunami. We're back here with the whole crew. Hello, entire crew. How you doing?
Hey.
Hi.
Oh,
Hi, everyone.
hello. Okay, yes, I was like, so coming in hot with a crucial, important question. I gotta know the secret third Indiepocalypse question, which is, what's your relationship to Mario?
Mario the game?
Mario the game, Mario the man. That's the end of that's the beginning. The end of that question is, what is your relationship to Mario?
I've played quite a few Mario games. Although I think my favorite tend to be where he's not the protagonist. Like my favorite game is Yoshi's Island, and he's a baby.
Yes,
And he's really annoying.
He's just kind of hanging around in that one.
I feel like Mario is a friend of the friends. Like the only true Mario games I've really played are like Mario Party. So it's like that friends who I always end up at a birthday party or something.
He's just a guy you kind of know. You see him on the other side of the room.
Yeah. He's good at organizing things, I believe.
Just he's a good organizer. I mean, that's a specific type of guy, you know, of someone who's just kind of like good at being in spaces or whatever. And Silver, you were saying you're.
I think I have fond memories of Mario just because like the first games that I ever played with a joystick was Super Mario, but like Super Mario 64 or something.
Yeah.
The really like old one that we got for like our house back in like I don't know, in the 2000s or something. But it was like I don't know if I can say it.
What?
I don't know if I can like say that it was like the I don't know if I can say it.
Okay.
But like yeah, super like I have fond memories of Mario.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know what you were trying to avoid saying. So I was like, wait a minute. That's fine. Oh, we're getting secret typing. This is between us. Secrets in the. Because it is like a weird like ubiquity or whatever. Oh yeah, whatever you can say that.
Okay. Good.
Yes, that's fine. I often talk. Listen, piracy is it preserves games better than game publishers preserve games. Especially like depending on like where in the world you live. Sometimes like that's just how you know him. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
do I have things to say about that?
Yes. Yeah. Like, are you a Dendy owner? a Dendy fan?
I'm not entirely sure if I know what you're talking about exactly.
A Dendy is like an old kind of like, I think it came out of Russia, but I'm sure it proliferated to other parts of Europe, or it was just very popular in Russia, and came out of somewhere else. But it was like it was like an old hardware clone of an NES.
Oh, there were so many of those.
Yeah.
I swear. I didn't have any of those, but like I had cousins who had those type of consoles, who had those massive cartridges that were like 48 in one
Yeah.
and had those counterfeit
Wait, what?
apparatuses like, the guns and all.
Yes. No, I have. It's weird that they even proliferated like into the U.S. to some degree. Like, you could buy them at malls. Like, I don't know how they operated truly.
Um, like the games that I had with Super Mario on, it was like in a small store from like in the province. And I found it in this like small store in the middle of like the street or something.
Yeah.
And I had to convince my mother to get me the game. And so we had this like CD that had like a lot of games in it for like I think the NES, the Nintendo NES version.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it came with like the joystick, so that's how I got into like gaming.
Right. Like, we underestimate how much just like piracy and like bootleg consoles are people's like introduction to games. Like,
Especially in like places where it's not that accessible.
right.
Exactly.
Where either just the console's not available or they're like ultra expensive.
Yeah. There was a time in Poland where there was a huge market for like pirated games, where you had games being burned onto CDs and sold in front of like legitimate marketplaces. There were just those little stands with little CD cases and like this normal blank CDs with the name of the game just written on them in Sharpie.
Oh my god, we had like the same in the Philippines.
Yeah. At least in the U.S. they had the decency to put them in packages. They looked official at least. But I have one of those like in a drawer behind me in this very room. It's like a gun and two controllers all connected to a box that plugs into a TV. And you can't disconnect them. But it is like, yeah, and before pre-internet, how else, like, we live in a nice world, we can just, wherever you live, you can just go on itch.io and just download a bunch of free indie games or whatever. But like, if you were like aware of Mario, you're like, how do I get that guy? And you get him from the guy that has all the CDs on the street.
Yeah. There were like whole little exchanges of CDs back in my elementary school. And obviously I never participated because I didn't have a computer for that.
Right.
And also I had no friends, so...
Two important parts of it.
Yeah.
But hey, now you've got a computer and you've got friends through that computer, so time
Exactly.
provides.
Time provides.
Hopefully.
I kind of like I have this friend who is a bit older and who told me about in his time where games were like I guess in the Atari era, like games were stored on tapes.
Yeah.
And so there were those pirate radios that were specialized in like broadcasting games, so you could record through the radio and get the games like that. I wish that would come back.
Oh, that's so cool.
I am fascinated by that. I like, because I tapes. I mean, the tape consoles like the Commodore and the ZX I don't think were as popular in the U.S. anyway. All the various like tape ones, but even, and that also predates me a little. But the idea of transmitting games via sound is oh no.
Yeah. It feels aliens, but like it felt very like very cool idea.
Yes. No. I don't know what you've put a cursed bit of information in my brain that I don't know what to do with now, but I'm like, we need to do something with that.
Yes, definitely.
We need to like bring back websites that have like I need to find some ZX people and be like, how do we get this thing on a sound file? All right,
There was a thing recently where they got a songbird, like one of those birds that can perfectly mimic sound.
Yeah.
And they converted like a file to sound and played this sound to this bird, and this bird could then reproduce this sound, and therefore you had like file storage on a bird.
So in theory, like,
how many birds do you need
right.
to play Doom?
Exactly. How many you got where I need to get? How many birds do you need to play Doom?
That's very good. Like, that's the best question.
Is there someone working on that right now? Is someone working on converting Doom to bird? Huh. Yeah. Anyway, I am racked with this idea. Too many ideas. See, now this is like there's so much avenue to kind of like get games into. Something I really want to try doing that I keep forgetting to meaningfully try to do is like getting games into like gallery spaces more. There are people definitely out there doing it down Avant Beetle down in Atlanta in the U.S. Has been doing a lot of like cool gallery shows in like one of those kind of like I don't know, I've never been to the actual venue, but it feels like one of those like loose decayed building turned into an art space kind of thing. We have a lot of them up in New England. There's like 10,000 mills that are now other things. That are usually like, I saw them, they're like warehouse, or not warehouse spaces, like market spaces. I saw a movie in one. But that thought wasn't going anywhere. That was just me free associating, I'm realizing. But we are also approaching 2 hours, which is usually a cutoff, which we reach faster given that we had a full packed show. So before we wrap up the show, does anyone have any kind of like non-promotional, because we, of course, like any proper show, you end with people promoting stuff, any non-promotional statements or questions that they want to get out before we get into the full promo zone?
It was nice meeting everyone and seeing all the similarities between comics and indie games, which is a world not familiar with, only like little glimpses through my friends and other people I know who make games. So that was really awesome to see.
Oh,
yeah, highly recommend the space every now and then. It's a very cool little thing to dip into. Well, listen, no one has anything else. I'm going to start.
no, can
Perfect.
I? Sorry that I'm kind of cutting off, but like,
Yeah.
I just want to say that one big shout out to Neo Interactives, because I wouldn't be there without you.
Yes.
And shout out to my friends who are listening, whenever, if it's now, if it's in the future, thank you for listening. And also thank you to everyone who's here.
Same.
Yes, thank you too.
Thanks.
Like, I am keeping an eye on you, Neo Interactives. I'm collecting them one at a time within Indiepocalypse. Using that as either like, hey, submit things, or like, hey, I need some people to commission. Like, what's going on here? What are they up to? Because I believe, who also made a Sweetfish, who also made a nice little button for Indiepocalypse, I believe, also in Neo Interactive, right? Like, have I got my groups right? But yeah, that's the, and I never mind. I stopped myself. Like I was ramming up to a much longer conversation about collectives and groups within games. How there ought to be more of them, and how there are actually already so many of them, and that people should just like. Something was happening on Blue Sky. I don't know why people were like listing lists of 50 indie games or whatever.
The
I
Game Awards.
Okay.
Yeah, the good cards.
But I'm like, I see that. I'm like, oh,
It
that's
was
nice. But then I'm also like,
it was this whole thing.
I'm like, people are actually going to play the games because that's the thing that I see every time. And I'm like, it's nice that people are making lists of games, but as someone who's a professional in the list of game business, getting people to play those games you make lists of is the hard part. Like, very easy to make a list, very hard to convert that list into people engaging with it.
We should make a creation of list of games then.
Yeah,
Maybe.
no. Here's my list of 50 lists of 50 games, the ultimate list of games ever made. It's like this is also far too complicated a thing for the end of a show, but it is they should have, instead of your reaction to the Game Awards should be like, this is one game. I played this one game and I liked it. Let me tell you about this singular game that I played. And then talk to another person about that game.
Yes.
Tell a friend about it. That's my version of it. Bring up in conversation an indie game that you played with a friend. Spread it that way slowly. Oh no, I closed my window because I'm so excited to close all these windows so I can restart my computer and fix that dead zone that's been bugging me for 2 hours now. But I will go around the circle as I see it. I'm usually the circle's starting in a different place than I'm used to because I'm used to being in the top circle. I'm not there anymore because I'm hiding down the bottom. And so, Silver, if people are looking for your stuff, where can people find your stuff?
All my works are usually under st-chem-atelier.itch.io.com, which is like strange chemistry.
Yes.
And I'm also in Blue Sky under the same handle. So that's it.
Perfect.
And I would like
Yeah.
to shout out to like my writer friends and also the people who's been like with me for like this entire thing since I started. So, and for Noel for like coming here with me. Thank you.
Okay.
No,
Thank you.
this is, if you are, I say the most important thing to do is like once you go to these pages, check out who is like commenting on their games, because usually, if people are commenting on an itch page, I feel like 90% of the time that is another developer. I'm looking
Yeah, it's true.
at
True.
voicemail R right now and go, hey, look at this. These are not only the developers, some past contributors, future contributors, even. But all developers. It's a nice. As someone who, my version of commenting on your itch page is running onto the show and talking to you in person. I just don't like commenting on things. So I have a very weird way of doing it. But a lot of people do not have those weird online posting hang-ups, and they'll post nice things inside comments. And you ought to check out those people. Like I often do. Sometimes if people ask me, well, how did you find me? And I'll go, I was looking through stuff. I'm always looking through stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I go, why don't I recognize who this person is? And then I go, ooh, what's this person? What do they make? But Okay, I was caught looking at something else. Anton, hey, what's up? Where can people find your game?
People can find me at antonmakesgames.itch.io, and that's basically where, like, if people want to see what I make, and yeah, that's where I want to be.
Perfect.
Found, I
Perfect.
think.
Yeah, no, it's having a simple hub that is findable. Don't need anything else, you know? Narrow, where can people find your work if they're looking to find it?
It's under ednarl.itch.io, and this is also my Blue Sky handle. Generally, if you can type in ednarl and EDNAAREL, hope I said that right.
Yes.
Then you can probably find me there. I'm probably there. It's something that only I use. So
yes, I am in a similar situation where like I just on my back of my business card I just have one name. I'm like, if I have a social account on something, it's there. That's what you look for.
Yeah.
Very handy to get a unique one. And finally, Kelly, where can
someone took Narrow on Discord?
Oh.
Sorry. I
No.
just wanted to add that someone took Narrow on Discord and I had to do a whole rebrand because I wanted to be Narrow and I couldn't be Narrow, so I had to be Ed Narrow from now on and I had to do a rebrand, so that's how you find me.
Yes. But there might be a different name on Discord. Who knows? I never know.
No.
Oh, never mind. You say on your page that you can find you on Discord. I never know how private
Yeah.
Discord usernames are. My Discord username is one step removed. Well, it's not very hidden either. I don't think technically it's the same thing, but it feels like one level of access away from phones or whatever.
Yeah.
People who put their phone number on like their business cards, deranged individuals. I never want someone I barely know to be able to contact me by phone. But speaking of people who want to be found in places, Kalina, hello. If people are looking for your work, where should they find it?
Yes, I'm Fairy Warrior Cat on itch.io, and same Fairy Warrior Cat on Blue Sky.
Perfect.
And on my itch, you can download the PDF of my comics to read for free.
And folks, recommend, as someone who read them this past week, recommend. I've got them in this room still somewhere. They have yet to make the pile, the pathwards towards my archive. But I've been working through my mice pile. And of course, that name I mentioned, that handy thing, I'm going to say instead, Indiepocalypse. You can get that, of course, at indiepocalypse.com, the easiest place to find Indiepocalypse. You can also go to pizzaprince.itch.io if you prefer to buy through itch.io. If you want to buy nice little physical copies of independent video games, you can do that and mail them up for the holiday season. I think it's probably cutting it very close now. I don't know how fast mail goes these days. And if you're listening to it right now, maybe we'll get it right now. I don't know. I'll try to get out. I usually do it on Fridays. I let everything pile up on Friday. But I'm thinking I should probably do that like more frequently now in case people are buying stuff as gifts. But if you want to be part of the Indiepocalypse daisy chain of developers, that's just indiepocalypse.com/submit. As simple as adding a game to a jam page and then giving your email and then telling me if it's free or not. And if it's not free, giving me a way to get it, because I'm not paying $1 billion on a bunch of submissions. That costs money. You get money when you're in it. Then you get paid. Then you get the silver is still you are new to the world of the $5 to $6 once or twice a year from Indiepocalypse, but it's in your future. Anton as well, both of you.
It's wonderful when it happens.
Yeah. Eventually, I just stopped putting Indiepocalypse in there because I'm like, they know what it is. Like, why else is indiepocalypse@gmail.com sending me $7? and then with it you can buy, I don't know, a piece of pizza.
You can buy another game.
Yes, you can.
The circle goes on.
Right.
It's a game.
continue the indie artist circle of just, I'm just gonna buy someone else's game with it, which I
That's the
also
spirit.
recommend. So, exciting things to look forward to. But that said, oh right, also indiepocalypse.com/Patreon, where you can subscribe to Indiepocalypse. Did you know that I've started running, commissioning and running features about games within Indiepocalypse? It's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's great.
It turns out actually there's a lot to say about these games still, and you just need to pay. Like, if you want to pay the people to write about it, there is a lot to be written about these games. You just need to be an editor that's like, I don't care how much traffic it gets or if it makes me any money. And I'm proud to be that editor. But the long version of it is, that also gives, I mean, the Patreon always has had a purpose in that it gets more money to developers, guaranteed. But now it has a goal, kind of the more money I get there, the more the more frequently I can publish these features. Because really, the Indiepocalypse Patreon is just my money. So it's like, you can publish more now because I am getting more, and it would take an astronomical amount of money every month in order for it to be even like a part-time job. So I'm not even worried about that. I did the math once, and it's very scary how much money that takes. It's like, I think it's almost like $17,000 a month or something ridiculous. That's, because I get 20%. Like, I don't, if it was, I do not live such a decadent lifestyle that I need $17,000 a month in order to continue living. Massachusetts is expensive, but not that expensive. But that's it. Thank you all for being here. Anton, Silver,
you.
Catalina, Narel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you for having us.
I'm closing. Thank you. And also, I remember, sometimes I forget, sometimes I remember, hey, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for listening. And thank you all for supporting Indiepocalypse, whether it's just listening to your friends on the show, whether it's buying, whether it's spending $500 and getting all the issues, or whether it's just telling a friend, hey, have you heard of this thing called Indiepocalypse? I think it's neat. Or contributing to it in some way. It all helps equally, Goodbye.